with 9/11, buildings crashing into, or planes crashing into buildings. When we didn't see the jets from NORAD next to the airliners, when we knew they hadn't been shot down or forced down, we knew something had been in. Some sort of something had happened. The Pentagon information had been kept from us, Building 7. It wasn't until 4 years later that the 9/11 Commission, attempted their cover-up. But it being Bush and gang and knowing who they were, we knew it was all, it was all stink. And then as time is going on now, the most conservative of my friends and associates, and the guys I work with, I'm a defense contractor, are the biggest bunch are former FBI counterterrorist people, former Bush White House people, and then Army intelligence, and I love to laugh when I say it. They don't like me to do that. But they used to say I was crazy. Not only go along entirely with, that 9/11 was, empty building to a large extent. You think 3,000 people is much for, the Twin Towers. That barely fills the elevators there. Somebody bought a couple of buildings full of asbestos and decided to drop them with explosives. It was probably 2 weeks ago, Clay, that we got the tape recordings from the New Jersey State Police of the arrest of the terrorists who blew up the truck on right at the edge of the George Washington Bridge. And we have, had the live tape from the police. Are these guys arrested? Are they in the dispatcher is thinking that the cops had arrested these guys in this big van that had for people that haven't heard of this, they're going to have to go out and come and find it. But we've got the entire tape from the police, of the police saying, yes, we see the van, 2 guys are running out. We chase the guys down. We're looking in the back of the van, it's full of explosives. We put the guys there. Yes, no, we didn't shoot them. They're in the back of the car with cuffs. Are you sure you didn't shoot them? Yes, we've got them. We've arrested them. Well, 24 hours later, the drivers of the van that blew up on the New Jersey Parkway, and we have the audio tape of their arrest, were on a plane to Tel Aviv. And according to the 9/11 Commission, they never existed. There were arrests made outside the Lincoln Tunnel, NYPD. Not everybody was on the take, or did we know that they would end up, beating up Wall Street demonstrators for a living. NYPD, whatever they had earned at one point in life, they had spent their hubris here by being paid thugs of Wall Street now. And I'd be glad to tell any of them.
This whole thing. I mean, I in March of 2004, I referred with building number 7 on the cover, and I referred to it as an exaggerated case of Jewish lightning.
Well, I don't say that word much.
Well, that's because you're Jewish. I mean, but that's what we called it in Texas.
It's not this. The 2 issues. 28% are. We're the top news site in Israel right now, and we have a lot of demonstrators. The Occupy movement in Israel is per capita bigger than it is in the U.S. Now, I don't have these guys well informed. My key issue is that murdering Palestinians probably ought to be against the law, and not everybody in Israel who's been listening to political propaganda for decades believes this. So of course the ADL has pages against both of us.
I've said, Gordon. I've tried to just qualify for a second. I've said, look, these elite have hidden behind the the Jews. They hide behind the Jews. They sacrifice them as quickly as they would sacrifice you and me.
Well, one of the guys on my staff that came out a while ago, who was the former White House head of counterterrorism, is a Jew. His uncle is the head of military intelligence, and we're beginning to get support here. We're dividing that. Let's say the Jews run everything. You know, let's just say that, and there may be some truth to that. Then I have two choices. I can alienate everyone that's Jewish, like the white supremacists do.
Yes.
I think they should call it supremacist instead of supremacist. Doesn't sound like a real word anyway. But I could try to alienate them, or I could try to talk to people like people and hope they stop being idiots, because it isn't just them. I mean, we've got people out there who voted for Bush. Now, we've got a new election coming up. It doesn't take 5 seconds anymore to figure out the whole thing is rigged. Obama's got this locked up. He's going to go back into office with Biden. Now, weird things we're seeing. This is really weird things. I explain that, and probably read Veterans Today. I'm really telling you, we work at it. We've got a large publication. We take no advertising. We have a great writing staff. There's a lot to get there. Read my stuff, but read other people too. This is a story about General Dempsey, the new chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Now, he went to Israel about 10 days ago to tell them that, you know, you're not going to bomb Iran, because it's a scam anyway, pretty much. Israel and Iran don't much care. You know, they don't have a legitimate argument. What they're doing is Israel bought piles and piles, $40 billion worth of oil futures. Back in October, oil was crashing. It was going down through the 70s. Gas was going to be $2 a gallon and heading down. In order to make money, Israel and Iran got together. Now, I have this information, I will say reliably, and that's always a problem, but one of my friends contacted the head of intelligence of the Ukraine, and they say they have proof of the plot. And what they said is that Israel and Iran together were going to pretend they were going to go to war for the next few months, and then oil prices were going to go over $100, and oil in the U.S. was going to hit close to $4, and then when the weather warmed up, it was going to go to almost $5. And I told them they were crazy, that with the European Union in total financial collapse, with all the new debt and it got washed from the papers pretty quickly, but France, Britain, and Italy are totally broke. France is $9 trillion in the hole. They've been hiding it from people for a long time. Britain is $12 trillion in the hole. They're down almost as much as the U.S. is, and they're the size of one state. So with their market for gasoline down 22%, our market down 12%, with the U.S. exporting 480,000 barrels of gasoline a day when we used to import 2 million, that oil prices were going to crash down to $40. That was my opinion because I worked as an oil painter for years, which is why I don't need money anymore, because I used to steal it like everyone else. And lo and behold, oil is sitting over $100, which, you know, if you can apply your term, you can see like 9/11, oil prices are Jewish lightning. They own oil futures. But who is making all the money from this? Well, another country is that they've saved. Whoever pushed oil prices up by manipulating all of these threats through Washington, and we can say that's the Jewish lobby, the Republican Party.
AIPAC.
Well, most of that money is going to Iran. Now, you know, and I'm a regular, of course. I do at least 2 shows a day in Iran, and I have friends there. It's not a close enough place to go on vacation, but Iran's pretty nice, and it's fairly pro-American. You know, and this whole idea of Iran threatening us, it's absolutely silly. It's a very pro-American country. Always has been. I mean, this whole thing's made up. But Iran is making billions of dollars a day on these oil prices. If you wanted to destroy Iran, take oil down to $20 for 3 months. They'll be totally broke. They won't have any missiles. They won't have anything.
Let me ask you about that, Gordon. You know, they say that according to Forbes, there's enough oil in the North Dakota bacon fields to supply the United States for 200 years. And we got more than Saudi Arabia. We got more than Iran.
It's not just that. We have the Eastern Mediterranean is floating in oil. We have new oil finds under Niger that nobody can get to because we've got so many rebels there. Serbia just came up with, I don't know if I can call it massive or not, but a very large oil find. We're finding oil everywhere we look now. And the other thing, if we could have a tinfoil hat moment, but we have a number of technologies that make oil unnecessary. We can, of course, say wind and solar and electric cars and things like this. But you know, for those people who run around the internet and see the pictures of NASA and the Air Force's anti-gravity spaceships landing, somebody got about a minute of one of those. Now, I don't know if this is a fake photo or not, but 2 years ago in Britain, I guess I should probably say this. I was staying with the RAF at Fairford. We've since closed. The Americans have a hotel for military retirees and VIPs. It's really nice, called Sterling House, and it's been closed for about a year. I love the staff there. We all love staying there. The little town of Fairford in the Cotswolds. One of my friends teaches history at Oxford, and I spent the day with him. We went to the Trout Pub on the Thames, where Colin Dexter, the guy who writes mystery novels, that I read anyway. You know, it was a deal for me to do this. I'm coming home. It's probably, I'm not totally sober, by the way, driving my Kia Creed, heading back to Fairford with my navigation system running me in circles, you know. Make a quick right turn, make a quick U-turn, over and over again, you know. Middle of the night, roads closed everywhere. It pushed me right past an RAF base. It's probably 1:30 in the morning. My wife, who's a nursing professor, sitting next to me. I see 3 huge lights in front of me. I'm driving on a little tiny road, trying to cross between 2 roads so that I don't end up down the town of Swinton, so I can get back towards Cirencester. And these huge lights, I figured, are either on top of a hill. They look like searchlights. Well, they were landing lights on a vehicle. The trouble is the vehicle was going 5 miles an hour. I keep driving, getting closer and closer to it, and it's going about as fast as it's dirigible. Stop the car, we get out, and this thing floats over our car. It's the size of it's bigger than a 747. It's just barely over the roof of my car. The problem is, the thing's painted green. It's not an alien spaceship. It looks like it was built by Boeing. I can see the rivets on it. I can see the army green paint on it. I can see where the paint's peeled off on it. It's 300 feet across and shaped like a triangle. It's making some big whirring noise. It has to weigh hundreds of tons. You know, it barely fit in a football stadium. And it's sitting. I could have taken a change out of my pocket and hit it. We sat there and watched, and you're automatically thinking anal probe is coming, you know. And then you look at it, because the landing lights are flashing back underneath it, and it's in the condition of an old museum B-17, meaning this thing's got to be at least 50, 60 years old. And it's going, it came to a dead stop. over me. It's sure not a helicopter. It didn't look aerodynamic. And then it started to move off. It sat over my car for maybe, 3 hours, really 3 minutes. And we get off and drive home, and yeah, well, where spaceships come from, it's probably in an old blimp hangar or whatever, but no attempt was made to hide this. And then on the internet, of course, we get a much smaller vehicle landing. Maybe it's a CGI film or not. I don't know. I don't examine everything. I do know that someone from the military about 5 months ago sent me a photo of the cruise missile hitting a short movie of the cruise missile hitting the Pentagon. I've only got about maybe 4 seconds, and it was taken from a satellite, one of our NORAD satellites. NORAD doesn't use radar. The missile itself looks to be, as I estimated, about 17 feet long, and the photograph we get, which looks like it was taken from about 200 miles over Atlantic City, with a retasked either thermal or optical. I suspect it was straight optical. You can see it clear as day. There's no question at all about it, and it is not CGI, and goes very well with the released photo that was shown, the parking lot thing. It's the same thing. It's got wings about 1 foot long, a tiny tail. It's 17 feet long, and it's going very fast.
Who do you think, Gordon, fired that missile? Who ordered that missile fired? What part of the Pentagon did it hit? And did it take out something of value?
The whole thing. See, you had the whole thing's about hiding money. When the Federal Reserve released $15 billion that bounced through HSBC, which, for people who don't know, is the Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation, the second largest bank in the world. It's headquartered out of London. And then they bounced to the Bank of Scotland, and then they threw it back to 20 banks. Well, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York has total assets of $45 billion, not $15 trillion. Trillion is another zero. So if you have $45 billion and you send 3, they call them tranches, that's bank talk for you, thank you. When you send 3 tranches of $5 trillion and you only have 45, it's pretty much like sending somebody the water from a foot to fill their pool up and putting it inside a milk jug. It's that kind of difference in dollars. The problem I have personally is that I'm working along with a number of people in our military, are working with former White House Intelligence Director Lee Wanta, former CIA handler for Osama bin Laden, who, of course, and I'd really like to get Lee to come on. He's very TV and radio shy, but Lee has proof of 4.5 trillion U.S. dollars being wired. We have this in the form of a SWIFT transfer from the Bank of China, where he had been hiding the money made by President Reagan under what was called Operation Hammer, that ran through the 80s and 90s. This was a ruble trading program that brought down the Soviet Union. It made 27 trillion total dollars. 4.5 was left. The rest was, Lee says it was stolen by the Bush family, by the P2 Freemasons, and look that up yourselves, because that's all. P2, Freemason, and Gladio. Those are the searches. And if you're in your car, you can't write stuff down. But I've got a SWIFT transfer. I also have 2,000 pages of documents from the Federal Eastern District Court of Virginia, showing that Wanta wants his money back. and we have a signed pay order to give his money back. Veterans Today and a group that I sit on the board of has in this case $6 billion of this money, which is a small amount, but $6 billion is obviously not a small amount, for veterans housing. And some of this money, $2 billion of this money, is earmarked particularly for the state of Arizona to protect our borders. So I've contacted authorities in the state of Arizona that we are planning to donate to them $2 billion to pay for border security to end what is going on there. But I want help from them, and the help I want is, since the federal government, and this is where the circle goes along, this money that was sent over to initially the Bank of Scotland and then given to 20 other banks, half of this money came not out of the Federal Reserve Bank, but is part of the escrowed funds. The want 4.5 trillion from 2006, wire transferred then, that has risen to 7.2 trillion. That is about half of the money. Now the other 8 billion, I have no idea where it came from. I can make something up for you, but you're better off without, you get too much of that anyway. But there's no other potential source for this money that went over there other than them going into the court's escrow fund. And we have the signed letters, of course, as Lord Blackheath has indicated. Well, that money, some of it belongs to the people of Arizona. It belongs to the veterans of the United States. $1 trillion of the dollars is to build a high-speed rail system, fully paid for, donated. $1 trillion. 400,000 jobs in the U.S. All high-paying jobs, all industries. In this case, we have a series of companies in Europe and China that we're ready to buy, lock, stock, and barrel, and move back to the U.S. and employ Americans to work in. Hundreds of thousands of Americans. Now it's going to have a little tough time. You'll no longer have to buy a $600 ticket to visit your grandmother when you're in a train going 400 miles an hour at 1/8 the cost. That's entirely paid for with no debt. Part of the court settlement documents in the 2,000 pages is a consent order by which Lee Wanta would buy $1 trillion of Treasury bills, financing this year's national debt. Then he has $1.55 trillion of federal income tax to pay, reducing our national debt by that much. Not not a full fix, but the first time we've moved forward and moved forward that far in a long time. And then he's got to live somewhere. He's currently in Washington, and we want to move into a friendly state, and that state will get a couple $100 billion. So wherever he moves, and if it's Arizona, the people of that state will not be paying taxes for the next 25 years.
I got a spare bedroom in the trailer in the fifth wheel here. Yeah.
Well, Clay, I suspect that first of all, since we've had this money stolen and have to get it back, and we have the help of people within our military, individual state governments, including your own, including the governor, your attorney general, and we have counties offering to seat grand juries to indict top government officials, extradite them to Arizona, because right now this money that has gone $2 billion right now under my authority, which is I have the authority over $6 billion of it, and that's all, as one of Lee's bankers. I have given $2 billion to the state of Arizona initially, and so the state of Arizona has standing, meaning they're there to get the money, and of course I'm doing it for a couple of reasons. One is, call it self-interest, so I can get the rest of my money, but so I can start my veterans housing project. And I'd kind of like to see the train system built, because I'd like to see the depression in this country end. I'd like to see our national debt end. And of course, their fear is that if we get money, excuse me, we're going to be asking for some justice.
Now,
think of the idea of $15 trillion. We don't have $700 billion to keep our government going, and the Federal Reserve is sending trillions overseas. And we have the list of the 20 banks they gave it to, BNP Paribas. I've got the list. I should have probably sent it to you. Morgan Chase, Deutsche Bank are on the list. Bank of Scotland only got 800. In the end, 887 billion, I believe, was what they got to keep on the list. Bank of Scotland had just been bailed out. It's part of the government of Britain, and they print their own money. If you get a British pound, and I'm in Scotland periodically, they say Bank of Scotland on them. You take them down to London, try to spend them. People think that you made them in your backyard, but the British government had to give them 40 billion pounds, which is, 63 billion dollars, because they went under. And the U.S. Federal Reserve gave the Bank of Scotland, which they kept, 887 billion U.S. dollars, which is 15 times the bailout they got. They never showed it on the books. We have the wire transfers. This is part of Lord James of Blackheath. He has the wire transfers. He has the original documents signed by Timothy Geithner, who I don't really dislike. I mean, many of his... Go ahead.
We're talking about criminal theft, and why will none of our law enforcement agencies do anything about this? Are the banksters just above the law? Do they run this? Are they pulling their strings? Can the FBI or the CIA do anything? I know that we got some honest people. You've got some honest people in there that want to see the Constitution restored. That want to see our farmers to be able to make a living again.
I can tell you exactly what they don't want to do. If anyone, another thing to look up is the name John Wheeler III. I can give you a much longer list of names. I can add Vince Foster to it. I can mention Susan Lindauer. Anybody who speaks up in this country from inside the government will be locked in a military base in a psychiatric facility. They will have drugs pumped into them for a very long time. Or, like with John Wheeler III, they will end up the victim of a street crime. Or they'll end up committing suicide.
Really going on in the news.
Hold on a second here.
Mainstream media won't tell you.
Yeah,
Are you frustrated with your elected politicians? Get the news behind the news at truthradio.com.
Okay, thank you very much for that little bulletin there. And
it made me feel better. But or they're going to commit suicide. A typical suicide is shooting yourself in the chest from 6 feet away twice, and then disposing of the gun, and that's a typical suicide. We've got a few of those behind us too. And then there are the mysterious small plane crashes, like Mike Connell when he was scheduled to